Dankeschön. Good morning, good morning. Did you hear the bell? So, we have a very dense, not dense, in terms of density, a very dense morning today. Is it that what I say? Dance morning? Is it like a dance morning? It's like so we got a dance morning. Because today we will have our remaining projects which are pitching. So the people who are here, I would like to ask them to take their seats so we can start right into our first project. We hope that you had a great night in Berlin, and I have to say I had a little bit of a cognitive aftermath when I went home because it was so intense and so plenty of new inspirations that I got there. It was a great day yesterday, and I'm looking really forward to have the day today with you. So to give a little rough, quick overview of what happens today. So as I said, we start with the last remaining projects, and after that we'll have a short break. And after that, we start into the first roundtable discussion, followed by another break, followed by another roundtable discussion. And then we'll come back together real quickly. And so we have planned to have the lunch today at 1:30, but after all, we're in a delay right now, and so we'll see how that works out. But we'll shorten there and shorten there, and so you won't... you will get your lunch today. Maybe. Okay. So, and after the lunch, you will have those 2 guided tours in ufaFabrik, which will be awesome. I tell you, I had one of those ufaFabrik tours a couple of years ago. It's very, very great to see what is going on around here. And then you will have some free time, and then we will come together, and then will be the announcement of the winners. But now, we start with our first project of the last pitching group today, and it's Oyun. Oyun conceives, develops, and implements artistic cultural projects through decolonial, queer, feminist, and migrant perspectives. It creates space for critical engagement, reflective experimentation, and radical solidarity. Thanks to its diverse cultural offerings, Oyun forms a hub of cultural and knowledge production. Please welcome on stage Rebecca and Judith from Oyun, Germany.
Hello everyone, my name is Judith. I work at Oyun, and this is my colleague Rebecca. And yes, we, as he mentioned before, we are a cultural center and a non-profit organization that aims focuses on projects that are from a decolonial and queer feministic and migrant perspective. And we are also a very young organization. We Oyun was founded in 2020, beginning of 2020. And before that, it was Werkstatt der Kulturen, so also a cultural center. And yes, and before that, it was actually a brewery. Yeah, and that is also why it's listed. Yeah, and yes, so in Oyun we have like it's a very big and complex house with many different rooms, like seminar rooms, hall for concerts. We have a club for parties or concerts and workshops. So we have all kinds of events, and Yes, and we are located at Neukölln, which is also a very diverse place with over 160 different international nationalities. Yes, so yeah, so my friend, my colleague Rebecca, and friend, yes, will give you a short introduction about what we're planning for, about our concept. Yeah, thank you.
So in the scope of this project, we wanted to focus on the garden because, as you had mentioned, the building is listed and that comes with lots of kind of constraints for the building. So we try to focus on how can we upgrade the garden space. You can see a picture of it here. And just so you have an idea, this is like the building is over 100 years old. It was an old brewery, and this is like the only the only part that's kind of remained after lots of all the other parts were demolished. And yeah, this is what you can kind of find in the garden space. So we have the main building, and there's also a cafe in the ground area, in the ground floor area, that is open to the public. We have a big community space with benches where there's also events. We already have a transformed container stage. So the container was originally stood on Tempelhofer Feld and was a refugee home during the Syria refugee crisis. And they kind of, you were able to just take one, and we kind of brought one to Oyun and refurbished it and made it into a kind of open container stage. We have already a garden group from the local neighborhood who is doing urban gardening at Oyun, and we have very basic composting, which we really need to upgrade, but more to that later. So we put together like small interventions that are like pretty feasible for us. And that is one, to make the container stage more self-sufficient. That means adding a green and solar roof on the stage so it can produce its own energy. This is a picture of a container stage, just so you have an idea. And here's like events we host in the summer where there's just for the neighborhood, for the community. This was a panel discussion from an artist who was exhibiting in one of the spaces we have in the building, and then was like panel talks, and there are also concerts and just other different kinds of events. Yes, so what we'd also like to extend is the urban gardening. So there's already like a group of 15 to 20 members of a local neighborhood who are growing vegetables and different kinds of herbs. And we want to also add insect homes to better pollination and just to diversify the flora and fauna. Here you can have just an idea how the situation looks like right now. So we have like flower beds, but there's definitely room for improvement. And then we have a basic composting area where organic waste from the Café Bulbul and the building kind of, which it uses, but it's really low tech. So it's actually a bit of a security hazard as well for the kids in the neighborhood. So we kind of have to block it. So we really want to upgrade that. And yesterday was also very interesting to see the alternative composting systems, the compost systems that were shown yesterday. And then we also are in there's also discussions for how we can harvest rainwater. So we're in communication with the Rainwater Initiative in Berlin to see if we can collect rainwater either on the roof or on the ground. But as I said before, it's really hard to do things on the building. So we're trying to kind of find situations to do that without like having problems with the Denkmalschutz in Germany, which is like the people who look, if you have like listed buildings, are you allowed to do these kind of developments? And then like in this big community space in the middle, we also want to have like an education or a kind of board where we show the sustainability measures we want to undertake and create awareness for the local communities, and also show kind of, we want to collect data so we can make it more accessible and visible for the people in the surrounding area. So the idea was to have low-cost open source sensors that monitor soil, carbon dioxide, which we can bind, and the plants that we are planting, and monitor the bees, kind of the bees' activity. So we kind of have a more participatory and also a low-key passive education system. So this was the kind of the idea to have to all the stations we kind of have also make data accessible and make it more visible for the surrounding neighborhood. Yes, Judith's going to carry on and try and explain to you the current dynamics and who we're already working with.
Okay, so let's talk about the current dynamics. So we are funded by the Berlin Senate, and because of that, if we want to make any changes, install any technical things, first we have to go through a quite complicated process and the BIM has to finally accept it. And
so the BIM is the Berlin Real Estate Management, so it's kind of a service provider for buildings in Berlin.
Thank you. Yes. Yes, and also who we also work with is EBB, and it was the initiative. Yeah. Okay. EBB, and they help us with the concept, right? Yeah, we're setting the concept. Sorry, and yeah, and also we work with a resource e.V. That the neighborhood community to that work on our garden, yeah, and and already Rebecca already mentioned the Berliner Regenagentur. So these are the current dynamics we have. We all already have cooperations in terms of identifying like what the problem is, what we want to solve, and yeah, and but that also comes with challenges. So as I said, long procedures with the BIM, and also we also don't know if like fundings are accepted or not. So another thing would be to like the RTL could support us by setting up like a professional concept to like lower the chances of being rejected. That would be a very like great thing, and also we have also the problem that that we want to we want, for example, people with
disabilities.
People with disabilities, thank you, to be able to move around freely, but at the same time we don't want to like on the ground we have soil and so on, and we don't like we want to have like sustainable technologies, right? So that is a balance act that we definitely have to master somehow, and I think that because of that, it's something that also the RTL can profit from, because we also consider that perspective very, yeah, exactly, and that's where we come to the support. So we would need support in planning and design optimization, as I said, to enhance the chance to like get fundings from the BIM, and also yeah, and also the thing is that in Oyun everything is about community, right? That is like the main focus, and we want to on one side maximize the technological improvement, like on an environmental basis. But at the same time, we want to have community-led decisions, and I think that, especially in that, both sides can profit from each other very much, because we can learn the technical stuff and build a concept and so on, but we can also support RTL with finding structures to combine, community-led decisions, to include marginalized communities, to see everything from a more decolonialized perspective. So that means this could also be like the knowledge that RTL would gain from us can be applied to other projects, and also like our whole team consists of people that have knowledge and a lot of experience in these fields, but like the field is huge, and like every single one of them has like very specific knowledge about that, and that's why I think it would be a very profitable collaboration for both sides. Yeah. So that was from our side. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Judith and Rebecca from Oyun. In the heart of Limerick, it's Limerick or Limerick? Limerick. Limerick. The heart of Limerick, Ormston House is a meeting place for the arts. Their program is co-designed with artists and citizens, resulting in community partnerships. Their multi-annual projects and cultural events are responsive to the city and its context. Their model of participation connects curatorial practice with local knowledge and activism. Please welcome Mary, Thomas, Andreas, and Tanat from the Republic of Ireland.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the introduction. And thank you to the RTL partners for the generous invitation, and to Moose for hosting us. And also ufaFabrik, of course. My name is Mary Conlon. I'm the founder of Ormston House. And I'm going to start by showing you 3 very short video clips, just so that you can get a sense of our space, how it's used, and to hear from some of our neighbours and users. Can I get... Yeah. Sorry, I'm not used to this computer. That's okay. Do you want to do the video? The videos first, yeah, please. So they're very short.
So what does Ormston House mean to you?
It means a lot of things. It means happiness to me. It means fun. And I think the Ormston House is the place for me. So I want Ormston House to stay where it is, and I want it to stay in the exact same place.
It's a place where your opinion is respected, and I think that's needed when you're a child.
Ormston House has created a place that's not intimidating for people, that's really welcoming, that welcomes young and old, people from all walks of life, to connect and to meet, to converse.
The more we allow all the different branches of ours to come together, the better it is for everyone, because we then understand it better and we actually feed each other as well off it. So it doesn't matter the type of music, or even the fact that you make music doesn't mean that you can't be in the room with a painter, or, you know, because the coming together of the two worlds, or the many different worlds, is great for the cultural family of the city.
And I think that's the really fantastic thing about Ormston House is that, you know, you just get such a diverse mix of people using it. And I really can't think of any other place in Limerick that is like that.
It's just a place that I actually love to go for creativity, just for my own sense of creativity. Walk in there and then I'm amazed by what I see. You know, every time I walk in there, I never know what I'm gonna get, but I'm always very delighted when I walk out.
I'm going to show one more video. I'm going to play it with the sound down and just give you a little bit of a summary of our history.
World premiere.
No. Sorry. How did I put the volume down? There you go. It's really down now. Okay. Oh yeah, thanks. Okay. So we opened Ormston House in 2011, and it was a temporary occupation. So for those who mightn't have had the chance to read our application, Ormston House was built around 1872. The architecture is based on a Venetian palazzo, which is very unusual in Limerick City. And it is now the only remaining example of this Italianate-style architecture that was common in the 19th century. So like Oyun, it's also a listed building, which comes with some interesting negotiations. So you just get a sense of the space and how it's used. So to give you a bit of a context for Limerick City, it's a working class city in the Midwest of Ireland, and we simultaneously have the youngest and oldest population on record. 50% of the city centre population are aged under 35 years, and 44% of the city centre population is of diverse international heritage. And I'm going to show you just in a moment a little map just so you can situate Ormston House within the city. So I always like to start presentations about planning in Ormston House and in Limerick with this. It's from a satirical newspaper called Waterford Whispers, and shortly before every general and local election, there are these amazing plans published and announced, and major regeneration plans and investments in Limerick City that eventually disappear or get diluted or don't come about, or the money isn't allocated fundamentally. So we have a lot of amazing plans. This is the reality. So this is Limerick City. Here, this is Irish Town, English Town, and Newtown Perry, which is a Georgian quarter. I'll point. It's fine. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks. So Ormston House is based here. And this is the River Shannon all the way around. And this map, it's a RAPID area. It was drawn in 2010, and RAPID stands for Regeneration Area for Planned Investment and Development. So this was drawn in 2010. And in 2017, the Public Deprivation Index reported that this was the most deprived neighbourhood in Ireland. So 7 years after this planned investment. So we've been located in this neighbourhood since 2011. As I said at the beginning, it was a temporary project, but of course we began to grow roots in this neighbourhood, and we decided to try and negotiate the purchase of the property, which was quite a lengthy process. For about 3 years, we very quietly negotiated the purchase of the property. We secured public funds, private funds, and then secured the contracts. And then a vulture fund came in and bought the property very, very quickly. So this then accidentally became public. And we just started the process again. So we started the process of negotiations. And when it became public, this is just sort of a screenshot of this kind of spontaneous social media campaign emerged, where people started to say that this Ormston House needed to be saved. But people started to articulate the expanded value of a cultural centre, what culture meant for them. They started to share personal stories of their experiences as well. So it became this really interesting record of the importance of culture for people personally. And we won. So we ended up securing the property. We proposed to, in order to protect the investment, we proposed a structure whereby we would buy the property, we'd put it into the ownership of the city, and they would lease it back to us on a long-term basis. So we have a 30-year lease, which equates to ownership. So when our local representatives voted for us to take the building on, it was disposed of. So we have secure tenancy. So all this to say, a lot of the sustainability ideas that we have had over the years, we weren't able to implement because we didn't have the permissions in place, whereas now we can really get stuck and we can really start to work. And I'm just showing a before and after photo, a very quick one. So this is when we first moved in. This building, this little structure behind was, we weren't allowed to take it down, and it was built out of bed sheets and election posters. So this is the kind of thing that was happening in the property, and this is just the same area in a recent exhibition that we had. So to get to our sustainability plan. So to give you an idea of what we've done to date, so we are a river city, so there is a very efficient flood defence system in the basement area. And we've re-slabbed the ground floor, we've installed a rapid heating infrared heating system, and we want to eventually replace this with a pump system. So far, we have worked with engineers from Regeneron, which is a pharmaceutical company, and also with ACP, which is an architectural conservation practice, to start planning a 3-phase approach to renovating and retrofitting the buildings. And the 3 key areas are accessibility. The second is energy efficiency and decarbonisation. And the third is the basement area, which Tom, Tanit and Andreas will talk about in a little minute. So in terms of accessibility, we want to test out a new methodology, the Serious Play, which some of you might be familiar with, which was developed by Lego. So it's a facilitation methodology. And since 2010, it's an open source community-based model. And our facilitator kind of described the benefits, what she felt the benefits were for this kind of consultation process. Excuse me, so audiovisual kinesthetic learning for different learning styles, a facilitation model to ensure that every member of the workshop contributes. It's super collaborative. It uses a shared language, keeps everybody on the same page, little room for misinterpretation, great memory recall because of the visual aids, and keeps people on topic and keeps the momentum going because it's a little bit different and a little bit weird. So it's a very hands-on process. So we want to test out this new methodology. We do host a lot of focus groups, but we want to test out this particular approach. In terms of energy efficiency and decarbonisation, Limerick is a lighthouse city for a Horizon 2020 project called Positive City Exchange, looking at blocks throughout the city to decarbonise. And we have been in conversation with them for some time. And the project partners have just completed 6 community-led decarbonisation projects in the city. So we want to invite the community representatives into Ormston House to kind of share their experience, their learning with us, and to ask them for advice on our plan. And another thing that we want to do potentially is there's a new technology called Finio to replace, as you may have seen, we have like very, very large windows. We have a 7-bay arcade of 3-metre high windows. It makes us very, very visible. But replacing those windows and the frames is quite tricky. This Finio glass, it's the width of single glazing, but it's more efficient than triple glazing, but they don't at the moment make it at that size. So we're hoping to work with this European company to make this a demonstration project to use this glass technology in our property. And then lastly, the third kind of work package in this 3-part process is the basement. So we get about 300 requests per year to use the space, and we can only accommodate about 1/3 at the moment. And the basement is a derelict space. I'll show you some photos of the basement now, that we can now bring into use, and it would double our capacity. So We have received funding to work with the community. We've received funding to work with the artists you're going to hear from next, to think about this basement space. And we've also had a visit from the Arts Council of Ireland who want to view the space. They're very interested in supporting us in this process as well as the Heritage Officer of Limerick City and County Council. So the challenges that we have, and that I'm hoping maybe RTL can support us on our journey. The first is that there is the funding gap that we have is, while we can secure funding for working with community, for working with artists and capital funds, it's actually the planning process that it is very difficult at the moment for us to fund, and the planning process with the professional fees, so with ACP in particular, so that's the Architectural Conservation professionals. So they obviously need to do a disability access, a fire audit. There's supposed to be a Section 57 document that's written for listed buildings. One was never written for Ormston House. There's a lot of technical documents. We need to know how to navigate the legislation, make sure we're meeting building regulations. So we need to work with them so that we can actually plan appropriately. So that is one area. And obviously with the RTL partners as well, I think we're all, we all have similar goals, but we're all at different stages in that journey or that process. So definitely advice. We'd really like to hear about your experiences and the trajectory. And I mean, already, even from hearing like the other pitches and from listening to Werner yesterday, we're already going home with a lot of ideas kind of bubbling up of what we can do as well. For me, I find out quite a lot of the language and the terminology we're using in the conversation is still quite abstract to me and to the communities. Like, we understand figures and the data, we can use them, but it's still quite abstract for people. So people we would love help with that to kind of really concretize what this means. So I think the scale of our proposal is achievable in the context, and the groundwork is laid, and there is the initial funding in place for it, and permissions. So I'm going to pass over now. So we've worked previously with Forerunner, 3 artists in the space, and we've asked them to work with us on redeveloping the basement. So they're going to tell you a little bit about their own practice.
Hi, Mary. Thanks so much. Hi, everybody. So the 3 of us are Forerunner. We've met most of you already throughout the course of this amazing hackathon. And we are an artist studio. We work collaboratively. We've kind of been friends since we went to college. We studied sculpture. And we make, I guess, artworks that are also buildings, that are also tests for future buildings and future projects.
Do you want to show us the Museum of Mythological Water Beasts one? So we don't have much time, I think. Maybe 30 seconds. So let's just show the work that we did with Mary in Ormston House. This gives you a bit of a sense of the building, and maybe some of the challenges as well. When we first got there, we were pretty impressed by these massive columns and the capitals on top, but also this little weird janky kind of feed-through area here, where you can kind of see all these weird decisions that have been made by people over time to sort of, like Mary said, probably make it out of election posters and bed sheets. And we like these kinds of things. We like interrogating buildings and spaces and trying to get people to use them or flow through them a little bit differently. So for this project, we built this kind of large-scale structure on one side, which allowed people to climb up and view these capitals and the way that they were built. And on the other side, we built a sort of pool, a series of steps into the ground, actually on the set of steps that go down into this basement. So in doing that, we were sort of exploring these like alternative routes that are in this building that are maybe hidden or have been kind of covered over, and trying to like bring them back or reintroduce them into the conversation. Yeah, so this is kind of the beginning, I guess, of the whole building renovation talk. Reopening this space and this kind of access point down into the basement. And then I think it was last year, maybe you suggested to Mary that, do you want to?
Yeah, just we sort of suggested, I called in one day to talk about something else, and it's always good to have a look in the basement to see what's been left down there. Maybe we left quite a lot of stuff there when we finished. But yeah, then I just sort of suggested that maybe we could help if they ever wanted to figure it out and use it, because it's pretty large space that is mostly just full of old artworks and cables, and it would be good to maybe shunt them over to the side and make a good use of it. So this year is that time to develop an idea of what to do. So we'll maybe try and come up with some fun ideas for using it. We've already got some that we're scared to tell Mary.
And more from being.
But maybe, I guess, we'll wrap it up there. But we can at the table, we can show some more of our works if you'd like to see. That's probably yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Amstenhaus. The MOST team has year-long experience within the ecological and sustainability cosmos, from designing and facilitating green and regenerative hackathons, campaigns, and setting up communities to architectural design. Spreading and evolving ideas and methods by the use of the resources at hand is what MOST is all about. Simple and widely you should write what you can read. That's a memo to me. Simply and widely applicable, you know, it's easy to apply. Solutions is what they are searching for. Please welcome Jacob and Felix from MOST Germany.
Sorry about that. Thank you. Yes, transforming cultural centers into transition catalysts. This is what we want to speak to you about. And I'm here with Felix. Felix is a transformation scientist working for Politics for Tomorrow. And we're teaming up on the 10 times 100 pitch. Also with us is Kilian. Kilian came to MOST for the Solarpunk residency last autumn, and he sticked around. He's a peer learning designer and product developer, and it's his birthday today, so he doesn't have to go on stage. Yesterday, Frido mentioned there is this level of trust with the Trans-Europalis network that made it easy for him to step in. And for me, there's this story of generosity that really resonated with our kind of community building approach that I got from going to Abelthof, going to Studio Alta. And so in this spirit, what we want to share with you is this kind of what can we give to the party? What is the pancakes that we can provide to the gathering? And the question that we are raising, therefore, is how might we turn cultural centers into catalysts for large-scale collaborative systems change? How might we develop capacities within cultural centers that are necessary to effectively connect, facilitate, and amplify existing sustainability initiatives and networks? And how might we prototype a new organizing model together with Rebuilding to Last that can be adapted by cultural spaces and networks across Europe? And Felix will kick us off.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks for the intro. I will basically zoom out before we go into the details of our proposal and give a bit of analytical background, a scientific background to our approach, because it's maybe sort of different to the other projects. So yeah, let me zoom out. As all of us are aware, we kind of entered a new phase, if you want to call it, of interlocking and multiple crises, which is often referred to as the polycrisis. And essentially what that means is that we entered a stage where there's a lot of urgency to act, right? So essentially our societies, for many reasons, climate change, digital disruption, war in Ukraine, you name it, have to adopt a new way of functioning and being, essentially. Yet, time is running up, as we also all know. The IPCC is estimating that we have roughly about 1,000 days to initiate effective climate action and to meet the 1 degree target. So that's only 3 years. So it's a very narrow time frame or overtone window. So yeah, we started this project by basically a great sense of urgency. So and thinking about like how can we actually initiate large-scale transitions, because that's what we need, right? And in the transition literature, there is this problem is, so there are many problems being discussed why we are actually failing at the moment to initiate the changes we need. And one of the core points or core problems which we're facing at the moment is called a coordination challenge. So essentially what it means is that there are a lot of meaningful and valuable sustainability initiatives, and many of them are present here as well. But often there is a lack of coherence or coordination between them to really kick off not only small-scale, community-based changes, but large-scale transitions. Because what we need is obviously transitions in the mobility systems, in cities, and other social systems. And for this, we need to collaborate more effectively. So at the moment, what we are seeing is a lot of small-scale initiatives which are basically fragmented, which are not coordinated, and which are even sometimes working in opposing directions. And this is obviously not very effective to achieve the kind of transitions we need at this point. So we are basically thinking around ways how we can address this coordination challenge and help basically existing initiatives to organize in a more effective way. Yesterday, I think Jakob Bilabel also mentioned that transformation is a team sport. We would add to this transformation is a team sport, but every team kind of needs a trainer or a facilitator. So who is enabling us to be a good team in this transformation we have to go through? Right, so and this is the kind of the question we try to raise with our project. So how can cultural centers become kind of a trainer for the team, or how can they facilitate better coordination? How can they really help us to address this coordination gap which we're currently facing? And in the transition literature, so this is a bit scientific still now, there is a concept being discussed at the moment, and a lot of like movement building initiatives are working with this as well. It's called transition catalyst. So it has different names. Some call it impact networks, other call it transformation enablers or aggregators, whatever you want to call it. This is a new entity basically in the field of sustainability initiatives, which is not itself working on projects such as like the greening of roofs or permaculture, or you name it, a new mobility system, but which is basically a facilitating layer which helps existing initiatives, places, change makers to better collaborate, which is helping them to connect, to amplify together their efforts, and to really achieve effective coordination. So obviously network building is not a new term, and it's been around for a long time. But often it's a buzzword, and more, at least we believe, a simulation of participation and engagement and really effective network building. So we try to really dive deeper into what that means, because often it's just being claimed, okay, we're doing community building, we're doing network building, but you need to develop, at least that's our understanding of it, you need to develop a new set of capacities as an organization to really facilitate effective collaboration. And we will go into this in the second part of the pitch, what we try to do here. So this idea of turning cultural centers maybe into transition catalysts is shifting an emphasis. So a lot of sustainability projects are focusing on the what. So what can we achieve? Like how can we make our like building a bit more green, more energy efficient, you name it, and that's very important. But little emphasis often paid to the how of transformation. So how are we actually achieving these transitions, and how are we collaborating with other initiatives which might follow and pursue the same goals on a larger scale? So here we have like a little diagram which is showing the different layers of, you can call it a transformation maybe. And often we stay on the technical layer of it. So how can we achieve a certain sustainability improvement in a building or like in a system? But often we don't pay attention to the deeper layers of this. So how do we actually organize in a more effective way? And this goes on a structural level with obviously the laws and the structures and the governance system we're implementing. But even on a very deep level, it's about the organizing mode and the kind of mental models we're building this organizing mode on. So how are we thinking about collaboration at its very core? And I could go deeper into what is the problem with our current paradigm, and I'm happy to talk about this later maybe in the discussion room. But yeah, so much for this end. So this really, so we are trying to really focus on a deep organizational shift. And so why do, what has like cultural centers, what's the role of them, and why are they important for this? We believe that cultural centers are very crucial and ideally positioned actually to assume this role of transition catalysts, to become these facilitating entities which help existing networks, existing change-making initiatives to better work together and to achieve collective action. And there's many reasons for it. We just pointed out a few here. I'm sure you're aware of many other points maybe which are sensible in this regard. But obviously, cultural centers historically have always been involved in community building. They have always been involved in bringing radical visions alive, connecting change makers, connecting visionaries, and connecting pioneers in their local settings. They're often situated these days, and I suppose it's the case for all of your entities as well, within existing networks of change-making organizations within their cities, within their regions, and their countries. And also they're often very open to novel approaches and experimentation. I think this provides like the ideal setup basically to experiment with a new organizing mode about collaborative system change. Yeah, and I would pass back to Jakob, and he would explain a bit more how we are approaching this at 10 times 100, and especially in collaboration with Moos.
So here you on the picture, in the behind the text, you can see quite an unusual array of people from very different kind of networks. We had a gathering in summer in Alpbach. Some people are representing like UNDP kind of programs on food. Some of them are like, and so we're kind of out of the league with a little kind of cultural center. But for us, it was not about the place, but it's kind of like what kind of alliances can we be a part of, and how can we connect to the city, and how can we facilitate like also a learning exchange between the different bubbles. So I want to link this really to where we are coming from Moos. So in the welcome dinner on Wednesday, you saw the bathtub, and this night, the first time I kind of jumped in myself, and it feels quite good. But it's like, this was 100 years ago, and 10 years ago, the building was bought. We kind of assembled a very kind of diverse, chaotic, different sets of interests that all came together to kind of into this place. There's around 150 people working there. There's 33 people living there a long time. A few kids, a few cats, actually no animals, but offices, companies, workshops. So like there is like some kind of like we're living there as well. And it's not only we work there, we live there. And so we want to bring the adaptations to really to this place and kind of make it tangible. So a lot of the things so far for us were about like the cultural transformation landscape, but we definitely are inspired by UFA to also become this kind of systemic demonstrator. This here is, you've seen the kind of, this is the old breakfast room back in the days. It's been kind of like worked out together, and it took quite some time. Celebration is a big kind of thing that connected all the people that kind of came into this place. Here on the floating thing, you see like a 3-month project where people built like a swimming island out of wood on a lake. And so that's what kind of brought the community together. And then there came a plan for building a new house. And interestingly, you also see on this one like a sketch for how the hall should be looked. So the hall, as you see it now, is a bit like a surprise. So there was a plan to have this kind of Moroccan bazaar style with different studios. And suddenly the holding infrastructure looked so like a spaceship that there was this idea, okay, let's leave the space empty. So we're kind of are a cultural center by two kind of surprises. One of this is we went to Abeltoft and everybody was speaking about cultural center, so we were like, okay, let's become a cultural center. And then we got this kind of also cultural center space where we're not only like a warehouse, but we also had a space to invite people into. Of course, fire and food as kind of the two good things to build community, but this is coming from a living setting. So before we were a cultural center, we needed to live together. So how to live together was our main challenge. And when we kicked off last year, we kicked off with a residency program for 22 people. So basically, we were busy the full year of hosting and making the living for 20 people work. And what happened in the cultural center kind of happened what was coming in. So we understand our role as a cultural center as a new kind of approach to how to be a cultural center, how to program. And so that's why the transition catalyst is where we're going. And of course, there is a lot of kind of organizing problems if you have 20 people in your residency, if you have built a community with a lot of kind of projects. So, and you don't really have any resources recently. So we're quite happy that we're partnering with the approach from the 10x100, which is acting as a transition catalyst, bringing together organization, networks, projects, funders, medias, cities on very kind of different levels and kind of bring them to regularly exchange. So there's a level of sense making together that happens. There's a level of really building alliances that happen. There's a level of unlocking funding together. And this happens with a kind of approach to say the next 1,000 days, 10x100, 1,000 days of time window where we can build some kind of blueprints for sustainability. And we break it down into this 100-day learn action cycle commitments where we have easy commitments, easy lean-ins, and then kind of build it together. And we use this both for our kind of local organizing of unusual alliances to be in a kind of alignment and to be in a shared rhythm. Sorry. But also we use this to kind of exchange with our partner network. So we're here in this moment together, and it's hugely inspiring to us to see where you are. What would happen if we come back in 100 days and exchange on all the learnings that happen through the things? What would happen in the next 100 days if we come together? So there is this line of thinking. I'm gonna, yeah, we have, this is in a conceptual phase we've been talking about it the whole last year. Now this year we really want to prototype how to run our programming in our cultural space with this story. And we believe it's a story that can allow a lot of people to plug in, to bring their kind of resources to the table. And so we're prototyping the organizing mode and the formats, the tools, and the processes. We quite have some material that we're going to roll out on the table later. But also we want to open our physical location. Is this a time check? No?
You're a little bit in overtime.
All right. We still have 4 minutes to go. Yeah? Okay. Okay. We will cut it then here. We want to open the cultural center and kind of have it as a venue for people to come in and think about it. And well, in this case, I'm just gonna skip to our last message. We can change the narrative on collaboration for system change. We are happy to be a member of the Trans-Europe since last September. And I think there's this German grandfather Goethe saying there's no better way to learn from each other than to work together. So that's what we kind of want to be in that. And we're gonna just have this as an outro video until the next crew arrives, because it's showing the abundance of kind of our actors in the network, and the idea is that we're kind of having celebrations like we did here all the 100 days, so all of our community is engaging with the question of how to rebuild to last, how to bring kind of sustainable innovation to our kind of cultural center, have this kind of regular kind of highlight to come together. And in the meantime, there is some kind of facilitation program. Now I see very critical eyes. Time is art. It's one of our main principles. I'm going to drop the mic. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Felix and Jakob from Moos. We keep it a little bit running till, let's see, till the next. So, do you have the presentation for the next group? Yeah. Okay. Next here on stage, there's the Culture Development Association, short CDA. CDA was founded in 1995 in Zagreb, Croatia, with the goal to rebuild the cultural landscape torn apart by war and political apathy. Since 1999, there's not 9 too much. Since 1999, CDA opened its own cultural venue, Mosvavra, I hope I got it right, and became a place for concerts, exhibits, plays, literature, and workshops. One might think of it as a venue, but it has become a haven of alternative culture which brings together people of all generations and subcultures. Please welcome Ivana and Janja. Ivana and Janja from CDA.
Hi, nice to meet you all. I'm Ivana from CDA. I'm presenting our project Garden of Unity today. As you mentioned, we are an old organization in Croatia. We've been active for 28 years, and now we are in the same space for 23 years, and we are hoping to stay there. We do a lot of things, just to say about us. We do theater, galleries, music venue, also the workshops and all kinds of workshops also, and all kinds of music. And also we are a club for young people, so we do a lot of parties. And here you can see one of our workshop for recycling. And we do 400 events a year now. And I'm not kidding, it's a lot. And we know that for sustainability we should do a little bit less. But for now, this is the way that we are founded, because we do own our own sale tickets and bar, but we do a lot of projects so we can sustain our venue. Also, I will now present, this is Janja, they are our neighbors. We are in the same space, and we were one of the co-founders of their space, and she will tell you a little bit about them.
Yes, well, it's a really pleasure to see you all today. It's also hard to present after all these impressive projects, and thank you all for inspiration for this last talk. As Ivana said, we are in the same building, neighbors since 2008 actually, and Močvara was one of the founders of Pogon. Pogon is Zagreb Center for Independent Culture and Youth. We are sharing the space of the former factory, Jedinstvo, which actually means unity. That's why it is Garden of Unity. It was I will tell you more about the space and how it was, but I would like to show just a couple of pictures to get a glance of what we are doing. This is one of the shows in our space. So the space is 400 meters big, the big hall, and we also have a smaller hall. This is, for example, how it looks like when we have exhibitions. It's huge, it's 9 meter high, so it's very good for also circus performances. And we're actually the only space in Zagreb that can actually exhibit really different kinds of contemporary art and independent culture. Also, why Pogon is special is that it is a civil-public partnership between City of Zagreb and the the coalition of civil organizations from the independent cultural scene. It is a pioneering project now for 15 years. Very successful, I would also say. So 27 organizations from independent culture govern the city institution together with the city. So we are the partner on this project because we are neighbors and because Močvara is one of our founders. And this is our small hall. This is one of the installations that we have of the Swiss artist Simon that we also did in the co-production with Močvara. So it is really organic cohabitation, organic life of two organizations. For a long time now, so for us it was logical to think about what can we do more to be more sustainable. We have, as you can see, a huge space, and this space requires a big renovation. And there are already plans for some while to do it. We also had a project to do it, but there is still not enough funding. So that's a separate story, but what we wanted to focus on in this project is actually something else. We also have behind the building a 600 square meters big garden. And we were thinking that this is maybe a good opportunity for us to rethink this space and to use this opportunity to transform it into really a community garden of unity, as we called it. So we will now show you a short video so you can get the picture of where we are in the city and how this space actually looks like. So this is actually the space. This is the factory, the whole factory, as you can see here. This is Jedinstvo, and Pogon is here, and Močvara is this smaller part, and this is actually the yard. It is situated in the center of the city on the riverbank of Sava. Sava is dividing Zagreb into two parts, new and old part. And as you can see, it's kind of strange because it's in the center, but there are only houses here. And it's kind of stuck in time. And it's kind of a victim of unrealized city plans, so to say, already for 30 years. So it's a working class neighborhood, and we are really surrounded by families, by older people, different kinds of communities. And this is the space that we are talking about. The factory, I just want to say a couple of words about the factory because I think it's interesting. It was built in the 60s, and it was a pump factory, building pumps for bigger factories. For example, pumps for producing cans and so on. And it was closed in '89. As you know, with the fall of the system, 2,000 people got fired. This was one of the facilities of the factory. The other one was on the other part of the city. And it was actually abandoned for almost 10 years before the first artist arrived here. Also typical development to work here. So one of the artists who first arrived was Indos. You could see his picture on one of the slides. So this is how it all began. And after '99, after the first artist, Močvara arrived some years later, and then Pogon at last in 2008. Yeah. So what we actually wanted to show you also with this video is that it's kind of a strange spot in the middle of the city, but there are no other social or cultural content a part of this one. Also, there is no park nearby. You have the river dam, of course, which is really nice, and a lot of people go there and walk there and jog and so on. But we really see this space as a really nice potential, how to use this space as a communal space and to strengthen this communication between the river dam on one side and on the other side with the community, with our neighborhood actually. So Ivan, I will tell a little bit more about our activities that we are doing in the garden.
Yes. Also, we have a circus in the garden. This is this red tent for 2 months. That is the organizations that we are working with. This, and also then we use this tent when they are not using it for their performances to have musical shows, also workshops and all different activities. And this is like we did a survey last year of our neighbors and our users, and they told us that our garden is not very friendly for them, because there are a lot of, I don't know how to say, because it was an old factory, there are a lot of metal things left behind, a lot of things that people can get hurt. So we are now trying to make it more friendly or more sustainable, plant more plants around. And also our neighbors that you saw, those small houses, they say that the noise is very disturbing to them sometimes. So we are thinking about building the wall from the plants to stop the noise going on. So we need those expertise, because we don't know how to do it. You know, all people that work for us are actually artists or cultural workers. They don't really have the expertise that they are needed to do this. So this is like where these projects comes in, and all your help. And this is like from this one, there was a picture of a band that actually, this is kind of artism that they do. They shaved one of the band members and also some of the attendees on this show in the garden, and it's it's a thing that happens. And here is the plants.
Yeah, well, because we feel here that we are in the community of similar people doing similar things. We didn't emphasize at the beginning, it is really a place for alternative culture. It is really a place for all kinds of things that you actually cannot see anywhere else in the city. And it is also a place for different groups, also neglected groups, also groups that really also find their home here. And it is one of the rare places where you can do it in Zagreb. And now, well, let's go to the actions. Yesterday we had this beautiful talk about 1, 3, 5, 7, whatever. So we are now there. Actually, we thought, okay, what can be really feasible within this project? What can you really do in such actually short time, you know? And because this plan for renovating the building is a long-term plan, and we are still in the development of the documentation and thinking about how it will go on and the financing and so on, we thought, as I said, that the garden is this little part, but a big impulse for us, and also the big impulse for the city and for the community to kind of push this process of renovation of the whole building. And it's not about just renovation, it's about really transforming the building into a sustainable place. Why I'm saying this, as you know, we as cultural creators produce really a lot of waste. We really don't still know how to manage that. So it is a big issue for us. And I'm not talking only about sustainability in that manner, I'm talking also in all other kinds of sustainability. So let us go to the concrete actions. What can we do within this project, and how it is feasible in actually 1 year and something. So these are the spots that we are planning the interventions. And what I think is really important to say is that each intervention actually includes participation of the community. So each action is actually a workshop or a participatory process that will then turn into a result here. So there is a river dam here, and the community in the neighborhood is there. And these are the areas where we want to do interventions. So you can see that we have already one entrance, and we want to strengthen the communication. We have here another entrance. We have here a fence that we want to turn into a vertical garden. We have here existing garden that we also want to upgrade. We planted already this year, actually now also last year already, we planted the fruit trees with these guilds under it. So we are working with a collective that is working on the principles of permaculture. So we already planted here now seven fruit trees. And then we have 3 bigger interventions, which for us are really, really important. The one that Ivana mentioned is the noise protection. The red one, of course, waste. And the last one is the small object, which is called, I don't know, in English, gazebo or something like that, which is actually a small object with a roof and where you can actually sit and which can be turned into different, actually, spaces. So this is also the picture of the tent, just for you to see how it looks like with a circus tent. We have a big festival during spring, which is actually gathering different artists from all over Europe. And here are these actions, once again, just for you to see what actually it is. So strengthening the communication to the river promenade, to be open, to be kind of friendly towards people, highlighting the entrances, transforming the fence into a vertical garden. We also already started with that, but we want to expand it, and we want to work a lot with edible vegetables, with edible plants, which we think it's nice that somebody can just stop by and also take something. We want to upgrade the existing urban garden. Here I have to thank to Werner, because of course he gave us a lot of inspiration in ufaFabrik with this rotational composter, because we already have compost, but as you know, it's not so easy to turn it over, and it's big. So in the end you realize that it's not really working perfectly, so we decided to do this rotational one to make it easier. We have in the garden already since 2015 a community, now already 200 people took classes of urban gardening in our garden with the cultural trainers. And we actually want to upgrade the garden with this composter. We want to do more efficient collecting of water, and more or less that's it. When we go on the other side, by these fruit trees that I mentioned, we want to create a sitting area, which would be a zone for, just coming in, sitting, reading, whatever. And now we come to these bigger interventions that require more skills and more material resources. And this is, we call it community green wall. We didn't call it a noise protection wall, because we would like to really do it more communicatively, that on one side it is green and it is also made as a mural or made as a mosaic, or it can be transformed every year or something like that. The red spot, waste. So we produce a lot of waste. As a club, Močvara has so much cardboard, for example, and we would like to really make a good practice and work with local gardeners that are nearby. We have a lot of wild gardens, a lot of gardeners there that would use this kind of cardboard for their gardens. So we would like to kind of have this connection better. We have already connection, but a better exchange with them to take these cardboards. And generally, we really need to teach artists, users, organizations how to deal with waste. Maybe for you it's something completely normal, but for us in Croatia, we just started introducing separating waste systems. Some cities in Croatia are doing it now for a while, but for example, in Zagreb, we now recently, couple of months ago, introduced a new separating system. We had one, but now we introduced a new similar one. So we would really like to be an impulse to the neighborhood, also to, you know, to start doing it. We are very, in that sense, it's very basic in Croatia, you know. We are still really learning, you know, how to separate waste. And this is a big problem for us because, as I said, the center produces a lot of waste. I also have to say that we are recycling a lot because we are working with artists and they can always do something else out of the different materials like metal and so on, so which is good. And also the last one is this small house, which I think would be really nice, and it would really transform this space into something more friendly, more communal, more open. It is really now just a small roof and a bench above it, under it. So these are the goals. Once again, I already said it, to foster proper recycling management and teach all users how to reduce and properly manage the waste and be the impulse of the green transition in the neighborhood and local community, and to transform the garden behind our building into a real communal space for culture, creativity, learning, and leisure time. And thank you for your attention. I hope these dinosaurs will not attack us. And
thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Well, thank you, Ivana and Janja from Cultural Development Association from Zagreb, Croatia. Sorry. Thank you. No, I go CDA. It's great. It's CDA. It's just CDA. Beginning in the 1990s as a non-profit youth initiative, Stanica Nova Synagoga advanced within the last 23 years to an organization which has organized several thousand community and cultural events and projects, which were attended by more than 300,000 people. Throughout openness, courage, and the content of their program, they managed to make their city and country more open to diversity, tolerance, and international cooperation. Please welcome on stage Robert and Juraj from Stanica Nova Synagoga.
Hello, welcome. I'm Robert. This is my colleague Juraj. We are from Slovakia. And I will start with this maybe a little bit boring picture for you. It's not very attractive for others maybe, but for me it's very personal. There are two co-founders of our association, La Aramisova, very freak artist, and Hanka. They both left. One of them died, unfortunately because of epilepsy, but for me it's a very positive memory. Like what we are doing there that day, I will remember because we were planting the trees. If I go to this corner of my center, nowadays there are big trees, and that's also the part of our project. And let's talk about the project. The first part is the forest. It's not about only the plants and how to use the plants and how to deal with the invasive plants, how to cool, but it's also the philosophical concept of the forest. What will be left when we will be gone, or we are starting doing something else. And the second part is the future. I'm getting old, and how to pass maybe the whole center to new generation. And the third part of the project is the freedom. I'm questioning myself, and we are questioning this also in the team, how can we deal with the freedom to use the public space? How much we can cross the boundaries? How much can we risk? How much can we experiment? So these are the three ideas of the project. And I would like to give you a little bit of the context. It's not maybe not visible, but it's a map of Europe, and my kids have it at home. It's a atlas. It's a map for kids. And each country in Europe, there is some attributes. Like I don't know, Ukraine there is some vegetables growing, or there is some different attributes. But in Slovakia, there is just mountains. There is also written Bratislava. We are not from Bratislava. We are from a small town. And it's a metaphor for me, like when we started it, there was kind of nothing. So we were, and it's good sometimes when there is nothing. You can do whatever, and you can try. So we started in the 90s with a bunch of friends. We were high schoolers. This is me, and now this is the director. He's my schoolmate. And we were just doing some experimental art and some playing with installations, and we were thinking we are maybe artists. And there was not much information that time. We didn't know that in 60s, 70s this all happened, because it was 90s, no internet, and and then we were starting to look for our own space, because we understood that our town is very boring, and so we were scanning different possibilities. This is Marek, like in that factory, and we were going through the empty buildings, and we found Stanica. So it's a station. It's a still operating railway station, and we fall in love with this building. And until nowadays, the trains are there stopping, and passengers go in, and we do the activities there. I don't know if it's why it's so small. Okay, and this was the opening of the Stanica. It was big theater action, and we were very enthusiastic. And we say to every artist, yes, we can do it, yes, yes, yes. And with this first very event, we ended up in really, really big debts. So, but like that time, it was maybe like 5 annual salaries of a person. It was not a really good start, but everyone said, wow, it's something. So there is another building. It's because we now running 2 venues in our town, and it's this is different story a little bit, because Stanica is more a laboratory, and Nova Synagoga, it was an empty building, and the Jewish community didn't know what to do, and it's very precious building. It's designed by German architect Peter Behrens, the father of modern architecture, and it is his most eastern realization of a building. It's from 30s.
I would maybe add an interesting information that I like very much about this project is that it's such an important architecture piece in Žilina, but no one really wanted to help the Jewish community to build it, even the city, or just give you the context, how was the atmosphere in the city or what it was. And they, on the end, they came to them to help. So that's, I think, says something.
And of course, we were very enthusiastic, we say yes, and in this very moment, we were in even bigger debts, like maybe 20 salaries. And but we said, okay, we cannot give back the building in the state. So that was how we started to go, and we said, let's involve everyone in this town. So we went to the football club, and they were giving us some percentage from the ticket sale for the football matches. Then we went to the pizzerias local, and so we involved small entrepreneurs, and then we came with the idea, and I sent an email to one advertising company, like, please create an idea that will bring us €1 million. And for free. And so they came with the idea that we can sell immortality. So we said, if you buy immortality, you will become immortal, and your name will be forever in part of the art piece, which will be there forever in the synagogue. So nowadays, if you go there, you can listen to the wall, and the national choir is singing your name if you Yeah, and we're still selling it. So, and this is after the renovation, so it's done. And just to give you a little bit vibe about our activities and the laboratory, so we're always experimenting about architecture, about recycling different materials. There are a lot of kids coming. We have 100 kids coming for regular activities, creative ateliers. They can do a lot of stuff. There are other organizations doing their own activities, critical mass, and there is a workshop to repair bicycles. There are bees, this first green roof, and there is green in ateliers. And also when we do some exhibition in Nova Synagoga, it's always critical, or this deals about the ecological catastrophe. And we go a lot to the public spaces. And also, if there is an artist making art piece in synagogue, then we think what to do with this material afterwards. So he was mirroring this dome, like 16 meters dome, and he made out of the woods this exhibition. It was there for 2 years. But anyway, for 2 years, you know. So then we tested to put it in the festival, biggest music festival in Slovakia, and it will then stay. We will place it in the nature to the beautiful landscape, and that people can use it, and it will serve for the public. So just to give you our biggest experimentation and dealing with the freedom and crossing boundaries. So there was an empty space we just took over. We didn't ask much the authorities. We built the biggest community building in Slovakia using straw and hay. And there was a brewery company giving us 3,000 beer crates. And we built this beautiful theater, which was there for 10 years. And yeah. So there, one day there was somebody, we don't know who, and he just set it in fire, and it totally like there was there was this story. I'm a little bit emotional.
No, you're doing great. And so yeah, that's we don't know who, but on the end the building actually went down, and I think that that strong event that really made us think about like what we can leave here. Like if there is so easy that something can disappear, like what we can that will stay after us. And one way to look at it, what will stay after us, is the younger generation. So maybe you could already see that it's a big part of our identity, working with young people and passing the message, and trying to build like a new core team of Stanica. But there is also another way to look at it, because even if the institution doesn't work at all in the future, then we want to still keep something that goes even further after us. And one of the idea is the forest, the greenery. And this is how the space looks. This is it's Stanica here, the little house there, and it's basically surrounded by like a concrete jungle. And we decided we want to make it like oasis, like a forest that spreads the greenery in the city. And this is architecture designed by Jakub Kopec, and it's very radical, like how we can put as much trees as possible into place. Of course, we want to follow this idea as much as the legal situation allows us. But it's not only about the trees; it's also about the small interventions. We wanna cover all the walls around it and really make it green. And it's not only that we make it green, but it's really also important that the place gets overheated at some point. So we really want to cool it down, and the building itself from this side gets really overheated. So that can help very much, and also like a small green pergolas. And on the other side, we also wanna we're thinking about the energy situation. And actually, Slovakia is one of the, like, comparing to the size of the country, so small, is quite big. Like we pay a lot still money to Russia for the gas. So one of the thing is that to lower the consumption, but also to have a better control of our own consumption of energy and creation of energy. So we really want to create photovoltaic panels on the building that also helps to cool down the building. And then also other thing is that you can see the pipe from the bridge. So we already collecting some water on the space, but we would really like to develop this system much further and collect water and then use it in a way. And you want to say something to this, right?
Yeah, we want to also give this younger generation and the kids the experience that you can do something with your hands. Like because for me it was very important that I was thinking I am not able, but after all this, I think I can build a house out of the garbage. So I think it's important to give them this, like, okay, you can just do it.
Yeah, and so in the end, what I like the most about the project is that there are so many little things that connects very naturally together. So there is this ethical side of getting rid of Russian gas that really connects to the economical side of being more independent with the energy, and also with the whole connects to the whole ecological part. And now I would like to talk like how we can cooperate with you partners. And I think that you can see from these examples that there is so much energy and passion and enthusiasm in our association. I think that's what we're good at. But sometimes we're lacking a bit of like a specification or like really knowledge in specific industry or a field, and I think that's where the cooperation can work very well, and I think there can be great results in it.
Yeah, this is just a recent picture. We just decided like, okay, we are getting old, so we have these keys from Stanica and these buildings, and we were too much like obsessed to create the space and these four walls and so on. I came there, I was really surprised because we just gave these keys to the young group of people. They are calling themselves a strange name, like it's Young Office Žilina, but it's an informal group, and we just say them like, don't ask us what we want to do. I mean, we don't need to like give you any direction and just do what you want. And so I came there. It was science was full. It was alive, full of young people, and it reminds me how we started. And I am happy that there is a new generation already. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Robert and Juraj from Stanica Nova Synagoga from Slovakia. So that was our last project in this third pitching group of today. And like yesterday, we now go into those islands of inspiration. So I don't know if it's their decision already, but because we have one table more than yesterday where we put that, but it's everything. So there will be 2 here and 3 over there. So thank you very much for those pitchings. It was very informative, very inspiring once again. And now you can go into discussion, go into the chat, engage with the projects, ask the questions, and get inspired. So it will be about 50 minutes. So we'll be meeting back here at 12:20, I guess. If I do the right math. Yes, it is. So